This afternoon we're spending time with a small bachelorhood of giraffes. We can tell they're males mainly from the thickness of the horns. It's a little bit harder to make the comparison between them and females, which have very thin horns, if they're not standing next to each other, but I'll insert a female photo. I'll insert a photo of a female here, you can have a look. Two of these bulls in particular are engaging in some very light sparring. I mean, if there's a spectrum of 0 being no interaction and 10 being a fight to the death, which giraffes will sometimes engage in, this is about a 1. Almost seems like there's some affection from time to time. It's quite sweet. But this is the best way to spend a warm afternoon in the bush. It's quite drowsy out here. We're fairly confident not too much is walking around at the moment. Leopards, lions, predators. So it's just some herbivores take advantage of the cooling down of the afternoon to feed a bit more before it gets dark. And then as the sun starts going down a little bit more, that's when predators are more likely to become active. And we're going to head back to the Avoca males close to where we left them this morning near the airstrip and see what's happening there. So we'll spend a bit more time with the giraffe and then move on. Just left the giraffe and now we've been sitting patiently waiting for a couple of tree squirrels to go into their little evening retreat. We saw one of the squirrels go in and then come out again, so I'm pretty sure they're about to bed down for the evening. It's getting dark now, and you can see a little clump of leaves at the base of the hollow in the tree, but the squirrel's a little bit reluctant to go in. I don't know if he's just taking in the sunset, which is pretty spectacular. I'm actually parked the wrong way, I'm missing it. Or if he's hesitant to reveal the hole to us. It seems a bit counterintuitive because we right here we've seen the squirrel come out anyway, but we're just going to wait till it goes in the hole. We see squirrels during the day and we watch them foraging, and they can give us some entertainment, and they often help us find the predators. They alarm when they see a leopard or a lion. But it's been, oh, here he goes, hang on a second. Oop. Okay, that's one gone in the hole, and there's a second one somewhere in the tree that we can't see. I think it's behind the trunk. Okay, we've just got to where the Birmingham males are. I mean, the Avoca males, I get confused. And we've got here just in time. It looks like they're on the move. Where are they going to go? I think they're going to cross the river, but it's getting dark now, so I don't think they'll be there. I don't think they'll be there in the light. But let's stick with them and see what happens. I hope what we've come here for is that they roar. That's really what we want out of the sighting. Okay, this morning we're looking at a fairly spectacular bird display. It's the radio. The long-tailed paradise whydah is for most of the year it's a nondescript little brown bird that should have trouble separating from a lot of other species. But during the summer the males grow these spectacularly long tail feathers and they use them as a breeding display. Apparently it's quite specific, around 10 in the morning and around 3 in the afternoon. They do these little display flights around prominent perches that they use as display sites. And they flutter around and make a little call, and that's meant to attract females. And the theory behind these tail feathers is that it's an energy cost to have. So a male that can have this necessary drag and impediment and something that might get him killed because he's not going to be maneuverable and not going to be able to fly away from predators, if he can still survive and attract mates and fight away rivals, then he's going to have very strong genes, and that makes him attractive to the females. So the theory goes. I mean, there are a couple of holes to be poked in it, but we're not going to go into that here. But yeah, I think that's the general consensus as to the evolution of these spectacular and very visual displays in a lot of bird species. We're moving into an area where Sean DeRujo has found tracks of the Inefficient pride. The Avoca males were at our camp last night and we followed their tracks this morning. Sean's found where the tracks met up with the tracks of the pride, and they're coming into this area around the Londolozi river. I should probably take this opportunity to mention that when I say last night, when you watch this, it's not actually last night, because there's necessarily a little bit of a lag between when we film stuff and when we put it out. It doesn't necessarily go out that day because there are a couple of stories that are stacked up ready to go. So when I say last night, it's my last night filming now, but in terms of viewing it'll probably be a couple of days ago. Anyway, we're going to go to the last tracks of the pride and see where they go. Usually tracking lines is the most fun we can have here, but I have to say doing it in waist-high grass that could hide a pride very easily it's not the best thing. Okay, we're just coming to the Londolozi now. I'm just trying to negotiate a way down into it, because tracks of a pride in the sand should be fairly easy to see. Whoop. And there's a pool of water here because it flowed a couple of days ago after heavy rain. Just want to see if they came for a drink. Whoop. So we get a lot of questions about whether being on foot out here is safe, and the answer is it's actually a lot safer than you'd imagine. You just got to stay fairly alert. Your ears will save you more than your eyes will. You'll listen here in branch breaking, which might mean an elephant. If you hear a growl, it might be the lions you're tracking in the bushes up ahead. But as long as you're stopping all the time, taking it slow, yeah, you should be good, because a lot of the animals here, they actually view people as more of a threat than anything else, and they'll tend to move off when we approach. So we were saying last night, with lions you need to find them early in summer, otherwise they're not going to be doing much because it's going to be quite hot. And that's exactly the case this morning. So the two Avoca males have been found by, who was tracking them? Nick, Pat and Kyle. This is a beautiful tambuti grove, and you can see there's bare earth. The tambuti trees, when the leaves fall down, a bit of toxicity goes into the soil from the latex in their leaves, and it makes it a bit of a hostile growing environment for grasses and other plants. So tambuti groves like this are very good places for predators to snooze during the day. There's good shade from the leaves. The tambuti trees have thick foliage, and it's nice and comfortable on the sand. There's no itchy grass and thorns and things like that. So, but now they're starting to head back north, which is in the stronghold of their territory. So we'll let them go.
We continued going upstream and saw some tracks crossing, and we could feel that we're hot on the tracks.
We did forget the milk again. We're going to fill it with milk as well, which we forgot, and we forgot hot water here. It's all been a bit of a disaster.
This is becoming habitat.
Are you just gonna film me being awkward the whole time?
We could see they crossed out of the Manuletti and headed towards a clearing, and we knew that there was a Tamboti thicket on the far side, so we thought there's a good chance that they'd be resting there since it was already quite hot. We scanned the thicket line with our binoculars, and the 2 male lions were lying there in the shade.
Right, this morning we are watching the world's most inefficient hornbill. It's a male red-billed hornbill that is really struggling to provide for his female. She is happily ensconced in a hollow in a what tree is this? It's a brown ivory tree. We featured a story on hornbills a couple of weeks ago. Swipe up to see that one. I'll just give you an idea of how they nest, but short story, the female seals herself into a cavity where she lays the eggs and she gets fed by a male through a crack. Oh, no, ground hornbills calling. I thought there might be lions that can sound similar at a distance. And this male we've been watching, it took him 20 minutes to bring the first food item to her, even though he was hopping around everywhere searching. He fed himself so much, but he took a long time to take her anything. We filmed a yellow-billed hornbill a couple of weeks ago. Oh, he's flying over here. Wait, there he goes. Oh, he landed in the tree above us. We filmed a yellow-billed hornbill a couple of weeks ago that would come in every couple of minutes, just with food item after food item after food item. 1 minute 17 seconds, I think, was his quickest trip. This hornbill, he's taken 20 minutes to bring the first little, I think it was a dung beetle. So in this situation, it might be a female feeding chicks that have already hatched in the nest, but we can tell it's the male because of the black lower mandible in his bill. Females have an all red bill, males have black on the bottom. Let's see if we can get him taking one more thing to her, and then we'll call it and go look for something else. So we've left the inefficient hornbill and we've come down to look for lions. We heard one calling about 5 minutes ago. We found tracks of a pride. It's almost certainly the Nsevu pride in this area, but these tracks were before the rain. We had a big storm last night, and weather conditions play a large role in telling us how fresh tracks were. These tracks have been degraded, they've been rained heavily upon, and they're not all that fresh, but it was heavy rain, so it wouldn't have taken too long to degrade the tracks to this extent. But the lions probably walked here early yesterday evening. So it's a combination of things. So enough rain needed to have fallen to soften the ground so that the lions' paws could sink in to make deep enough tracks, but then more rain would have fallen afterwards to kind of obscure them a little. So these tracks were yesterday evening. They might have moved quite far since then, but we're still going to carry on and search in this direction. That's the way they point, and there is a male with it. Over here, that's the track. That's a big track. It looks like one of the Birmingham males. It can be a bit deceptive because in soft mud, the paws, once a soft substrate, the paws spread out a bit, or the toes spread out, make it look like a bigger track. But that does look big enough to be a large male. Let's go have a look. So we're near the Sand River now, and we've bumped into this hyena sniffing the breeze. Doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's very full-bellied and it's having a good sniff. Maybe there's something around here. I mean, look, there are hyenas everywhere. They're fairly ubiquitous across the reserve. They do operate in clans, so there'll be a core territory for a clan, but within that area you find individuals foraging all over the place. So in a situation like this, where the hyena is very well fed, it's having a good sniff, you got to ask what brought it here in the first place. It was scent marking a little bit, so maybe there was just another hyena nearby that it got a sniff of. Maybe this is right on the edge of this clan's territory. But let's just check some of the big trees around here and see if maybe there's a leopard with a kill stashed. Long shot, but let's have a look. Just thinking about it now, actually, if the hyena was that full and there was a leopard with a kill, it would probably mean that the hyena has stolen the kill because it's had a big meal. I think that's actually most likely what happened, whether it was in this area or somewhere else. Grey days like this, following very dark nights like we had last night with the big storm, are often difficult to find leopards because the hunting conditions are so good in the storm. Pitch black, noise, lightning, thunder, it's all confusing for the herbivores. It's very easy for a leopard to sneak up on an unsuspecting impala herd. Not unsuspecting, they probably do suspect there's a leopard out there, but they're the best hunting conditions. So a large number of leopards are sitting on kills at the moment, hiding in thickets, hoisted in a tree somewhere. They're not walking around, which makes it quite difficult to find them. Okay, we're still along the river, and at the moment we're sitting with a pair of little bee-eaters, beautiful little green and yellow birds that we often find close to the Sand River. And it's a pair of them, and they're hawking. So it's a style of hunting involving setting off from a perch, grabbing something out of the air and flying back to the same perch. As the name suggests, they do eat a fair number of bees and wasps. They do eat a variety of little bugs, but a large portion of their diet is stinging insects. And if they do catch one of them, then you'll see them scraping the stings off of the insect on the bark of the tree or the branch or wherever they're perched, and so they can swallow it safely. And that's one of the reasons why their beak is quite long relative to their body size, so they can keep the stinger at a distance. It's not a danger to their eye or their face. So you can tell a lot about what a bird eats by the shape of the bill. Seed eaters have thick bills for crushing open seeds. Insect eating birds have delicate beaks for plucking things finely out of the air. Now, for a photographer, we haven't talked a lot about photography in this whole virtual safari series, but for bird photographers, these guys are a dream because of the hawking, because of the fact that they usually come back to the same perch. They take off, grab an insect and come back. You can set your focus up on the perch and then just wait for them to fly into frame, push the shutter, and then hopefully you get a good shot. You generally want to have a slightly greater depth of field just to make sure they're in focus if they come into land from behind or in front of the perch, and that means narrowing your aperture a little bit. But yeah, photographically, bee-eaters are great because you can predict with a fair amount of accuracy where they're going to land, and you can be ready.